You know, every time Duke Tobin speaks, it's like a robot, and it's kind of like program responses. But today he spoke about Shemar Stewart. He also spoke about Trey Hendrickson, which kind of just, continues validating the words, continues to prove the point that it looks like they're going to try to get this done sometime very, very soon. He said he's an important part of our team. He's a guy who has been very valuable, has earned a pay raise and extension. We'll see if we can come together on something. Explaining that, yes, there are still talks going on. Mike Brown also talked about the situation with Trey Hendrickson. He said that Trey's not always the easiest to work with, but he has the right to fight for what he wants and what he believes is correct, obviously money wise. So that situation was also kind of iffy. But here is the Shemar Stewart situation. So Mike Brown called the level has risen to silliness. Duke Tobin says, I think Shemar needs to be here. I'm not going to blame Shemar. He's listening to advice he is paying for. I don't understand or believe or agree with the advice, but I'm not the one paying for it. If I felt we were treating him unfairly as it relates to all the other draft picks in this year's draft, then maybe it would be a different story. But we are not. I don't understand where things are. Yeah, so things pretty clear. Shemar Stewart, we lost the first round pick. We just lost the first round pick. That's pretty much how this is summary's gonna end. Is we just lost the first round pick, and we had 5 picks this year in the NFL draft. I think that's really what this is summarized to, and I'm not trying to be Debbie Downer, but I think Shemar will sit out a year, and then he'll go to the NFL draft next year, and we'll see where he ends up getting drafted. But that's pretty much just how it is. Duke Tobin's response here, again, like I said, a lot of time when he talks, he's kind of like robotish. This is very clear cut and to the point. There is no working this out. Because, as Duke says here, they don't even understand. They don't understand anything that is going on. They don't understand why it's going on. And until there is some like level of common ground where it's like, okay, well, we understand why he might be upset or frustrated, but this is our morals and values. There is none of that. There is no we understand or we might understand. No, it's he's wrong. We're right. We don't understand why he's listening to people telling him the opposite. There is no fixing that. Like, that's pretty much like there's no even reason, honestly, for them to even talk. At this point, it's just, hey, you either get rid of your agent, you get rid of your guys, you get rid of your crew, or you're going to go back to the NFL draft and you're going to see who drafts you next year. And we lost the first round pick. That's pretty much it. Is as blunt as that. So, we'll see. I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll get drafted second, third round next year. Maybe he'll go, who knows? Again, like I said, it sucks. It really does. Because, we could have had Malachi Starks. We could have had Derek Harmon. We could have had so many other players. We go with Shemar Stewart, and for better or for worse, I'm not blaming him to a certain degree, but what I will say is it's disappointing that this is how the saga, in theory, is just going to end. Is that we're going to be making history, but not in a good way. We're going to be having a draft pick who, first time ever, go back to the NFL draft and reapply next year. It's never happened in the history of football. And we're making history. So, shout out to that fact. It does look like Trey will be signed sometime soon, though, at least. So, that's a good thing. Again, like I said, It is what it is, man. It is what it is. Once he publicly bashed the team, that's like the nail in the coffin, I feel like. And it was at that point where it's like, there's just no fixing it. There's just no fixing the situation. So, shout out to that fact. Anyway, Dan Pitcher was very blunt when asked about competition with Jake Browning, between Jake Browning, obviously, and Desmond Ridder. He says Jake's the backup. There is no competition. It is Jake's job, and that is period. Also, Dylan Fairchild works solely at left guard rather than cross-training at right guard. So, that's going to be interesting to see. I mean, if they pick up another veteran guard, that would be awesome, to have him as strictly left guard, and then you have a red and right guard. But, yeah. The first response for Trey situation with Duke Tobin was kind of like, again, robotic. But, yeah, I think Shemar needs to be here. I think he has an important role in the team. We believe is a championship caliber team. I'm not going to blame Lamar. He is paying for advice he's getting. Yeah, so, again, he's saying he's paying for awful advice. That's pretty much what he's saying. And then he said Trey is an important part of the team. He's under contract. We expect him to be here, which I think everyone understands he's not going to be there. That's why they're trying to get the situation done with. Because once they get Trey signed and he's at training camp and he's ready to go, I think this is just going to be the train is leaving the station and Shemar Stewart is not on the train. And that's just, it is what it is. But tell me your thoughts, opinions. See you guys next one. Peace out.